Last year was historic for the Sacramento Kings, being the third seed in the Western Conference, winning the Pacific Division, making the playoffs for the first time in 16 years, eventually losing to the reigning champions, the Golden State Warriors. But point is, it was a crazy year for the Kings and Kings fans overall. Now, being a Kings fan myself, I'll tell you right now, I expected this team to get off to a fiery start. We kept our same core team, but also added players like JaVale McGee, who would be huge helps on the team, which, side note, the plays between Malik Monk and JaVale McGee are becoming my favorite plays all season. I love his veteran role in this team so far. But sadly, my delusional take of thinking that the Kings would get off to a fiery start is not going too hot. But the Kings' performances recently might not be as bad as everyone thinks. See, last year in the first 6 games of the Kings season, they went 2-4, with that actually being a 4-game losing streak to start off the season. I mean, it was rough. Now, if you look at this year's record so far, which at the time of recording is 6 games into the season, they are also currently 2-4, which basically means the Kings are going to go on to be the 3rd seed in the West. We're going to make the playoffs, and we're going to find ourselves at an NBA championship. Sorry, my delusional thinking was taking over again. What I will say is that there's no need to overreact about a bad performance early on in the season. It happens to everyone. I mean, the Phoenix Suns, who have Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, and Devin Booker, are off to a 3-4 start, right? And it's always super funny because it's not really the first 2 games of the season that everyone overreacts about. It's usually the first 8 to 10 because the team should be ready. Like, they should be prepared for the season by now, but there's still always things that teams have to overcome. And there's one problem that the Kings have that they might not be able to overcome, and that is injuries. Injuries specifically to De'Aaron Fox. Because last year, the Kings were painted as the healthiest team in the NBA, with many people using this as a reason as to why they were successful, which, by the way, is the stupidest shit of all time. If you actually watched or were in touch with the Sacramento Kings last year, you would know that they actually suffered through more injuries than most teams out there. Like Sabonis, who had a bad thumb practically all season, or Keegan Murray, who also went through some hand injuries at the start of the year. The only difference is, unlike other players in the league who would take this time to sit out and get surgery and go through all this recovery and sit on the bench and just enjoy getting paid for doing nothing, they stuck through. Sabonis played that entire last season with a bad thumb, and not only did he play through it, but he thrived in it. He put up career highs last year. I mean, it was just crazy to see. Keegan Murray also having an amazing year last year with injuries. But the reason why I bring up De'Aaron Fox and injuries is because we are now seeing him miss his 4th straight game due to an ankle sprain that happened earlier. Now, thankfully, this ankle problem isn't as bad as what it could have been. He avoided apparently a huge injury, so that's obviously great news to hear. But after seeing this 4-game sample size of the Kings without De'Aaron Fox, it is safe to say they cannot live without him. The first game being a loss against the Warriors by 1 point, which is like understandable. The Kings always find a way to lose to the Warriors. Like, it's okay. We saw the Klay Thompson buzzer beater, whatever. Okay, whatever. But the last 2 games they played against the Houston Rockets, I'm not even gonna lie, I didn't even watch all of them. The first one I think I watched all the way, but the second one I was halfway through, and I couldn't stand the fact that we had Davion Mitchell as our starting point guard. Now, let me clarify right now by saying I love Davion Mitchell. Davion Mitchell is one of my favorite players on this team, but taking over a role like De'Aaron Fox's, you have to be good at offense, and well, Davion Mitchell isn't really the best at that. That also combined with the rest of the team really struggling offensively these last 2 games, it was not a fun watch, and it was the main reason why you're seeing Kings fans overreact and say that we're just ass now. But the truth is, we're not. Do I think we'll still be a good team this year? Yes, but it solely relies on De'Aaron Fox being healthy and available to play. Because like I said before, Davion Mitchell just isn't going to cut it as your main offensive #1 option while De'Aaron Fox is out. Whether or not you want to go ahead and put Malik Monk in that position, I guess we might see in this upcoming game against the Trailblazers. Let me also say really quick, I don't think Davion Mitchell should be traded or we should get rid of him or lower his playing time. Like I said, love watching Davion Mitchell, especially with Mike Brown being such a defensive-oriented coach. I don't see them getting rid of one of the best defensive guys on the team. At the same time, I can't really blame any other Kings fans out there for overreacting to these losses. After 16 years of being pure ass, it's fair enough to get PTSD about losing 4 games in a row, but there's just so much happening with this Kings team right now. Like, Keegan Murray is not doing the best right now, and Kevin Huerter has been struggling since the playoffs of last year. Sabonis isn't really, but there's a lot going on, okay? And guess what? Last year, it took the Kings 7 games to really get stuff under control, with them even saying themselves they were at a down point last year. But as soon as De'Aaron Fox hit that buzzer beater over the Orlando Magic in the 7th game of the season, things turned around. So Kings fans and NBA fans who enjoy watching the Kings, nothing but time will tell to see if this team will be good enough to really make a run at it again this year. But what do you guys think? Will Monte McNair make any changes? I feel like he will want to keep this core team as long as he can, but it's also not really that surprising and shocking if he does make a crazy last-second decision move. I will say I've seen a lot of mock trades on my Twitter timeline for players like OG Anunoby and Pascal Siakam, and I'm just saying, I mean, he could pull some crazy shit. Also, I've slightly mentioned throughout this video that the Kings play tomorrow at the time of recording, so if you're watching this in the future, I really hope the Kings won. If they did win, I'm sure everyone's happy and having a good time right now, but if they lost, I think we should just trade everyone away and tank for the #1 pick.